everyone, my name is Scott Mantz. I'm an LA-based member of the Critics' Choice Association, and we are in conversation with the production team behind BLITZ, written and directed by Steve McQueen. I am very, very excited to be joined by production sound mixer John Casali. I'm very excited to be joined by picture editor Peter Sciberras, and supervising sound editors and re-recording mixers James Harrison and Paul Cotterell. Gentlemen, great to see you. Congrats on the film. So, James, I'm just going to start with you on this. What was your first conversation about BLITZ? What's Steve McQueen like, and how specific was he about what he wanted, and in terms of the sound, and what was he open to?
He was very passionate about that. It was just, he wanted to be in London. He wanted it to be really new and as good and engrossing as it could possibly be. He's very open to ideas. He's an incredibly creative person himself, coming from his artistic background, obviously. But he's very encouraging of creative work as well. So he really wants to get the best for his film and the best out of us. He uses us, really. So he wants to just get whatever he can. All
right, Paul, I'd love to hear you weigh in on that as well.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with all of that. So it was simple in the sense that we would bring a new idea, and he knew instantly whether it had a place in the film or it didn't have a place in the film. And we narrowed things down, and it became clearer and clearer what the vision was to be, but he was completely open to things. He always says, I'm the least experienced person in the room. You guys have got 60 years between you. I do this once every 2 or 3 years. So, he's smart. He's open to things, but as James said, he's clear on where he's going and what he wants.
In terms of the production sound and all the research that you did, all the prep and all the research, what were some of the biggest discoveries that came out of that preparation, out of that research?
Well, we had lengthy discussions before we started shooting. So like with the guys, I had a clear idea of what Steve was looking for. And we were very lucky, a lot of the locations we shot at, the munitions factory, had a lot of, practical props there. So there was a lot of material we could record on location, which, gave the feeling that we were in a munitions factory. So there's a lot of stuff going on all the time. We had a lot of crowd. So there was, and also in the tube, we shot at tube stations. The set was amazing, so it gave us the correct acoustic for the sets. We had real water coming into the sets, so there's a lot of stuff that was there for me. I was very lucky to be able to record, natural sounds in natural locations.
Peter, can you talk about your collaboration with James and with Paul?
Absolutely. This was a really interesting one, actually, because I kind of started assembling and quickly got a sense that I wanted James and Paul to start as soon as possible. So I kind of got talking to Steve and the producers, and we kind of feel like we got you guys in. The shoot was not quite finished yet. We were kind of a few weeks away from finishing. So just because there's such a scale in this film, and the crowds are so, it's kind of old-fashioned in a sense to have so many real bodies in shots, like that many people. Yeah, we just wanted to lose that studio feel as quickly as possible. So that was the starting point. And then we all shared a building, so we were kind of talking to each other constantly and running downstairs. We were up the top, these guys were in the basement, and we'd kind of work on especially some of the, the flood, for example, the fire, the opening fire scene, the jumping off the train, jumping on the train, all those sequences, we kind of spent so much time together. So it felt very much like an extension of the offline. We'd spend like days on the couch downstairs, in sound while we were cutting pictures. So it was really collaborative and a lovely way to work. I wish it was more often like that, to be honest.
So much to talk about. I mean, the air raid scenes are, with the sirens are, chilling, but a lot of people have been talking about the tube station, the flooding of the tube station. Can you kind of just take us through that scene from your work and your point of view?
Yeah, so actually it's one of the first sequences that I worked on, actually, because it's one of those sequences that when you're working with water like that, rushing water, it's essentially just white noise. And I mean, I've done some water sequences in the past on some other films, like 1917 and things like that, when he jumps in the river, and it doesn't get any easier, to be fair. Working and things like that, it's just always it's really difficult, but really enjoyable. And when you get that sort of, when you start to see how it's shaping and it's working, then it's really enjoyable. And then when we have that extra layer of Hans's music that comes in, and we do this handover to Hans's music as George starts. It starts off with the water, and it's all sort of effects, and then the music sort of takes over, and it takes it up another level. So yeah, I mean, it was a labor of love, definitely. It took a long time, but it was really good, because we'd work on it, and then Pete and Steve would come downstairs, as Pete was saying, and we'd run some bits, and we'd take notes and just talk about what's important, and how many George's breaths and things like that. So it was a labor of love, but it was very rewarding at the end.
Paul, how long did it take in regards to the tube scene till you felt like you got it right?
We went in with George once, recorded his breaths, and Steve would say, "More, we need more of him. We need more," and we couldn't get any more with those recordings. So we went the second time we had George in. We had him kind of working on dumbbells, and his dad was holding him, and he was pushing and struggling, and so eventually we got that sort of level, and we actually added a bit of distortion underneath his breaths, like took a layer and distorted it, so it kind of punched its way through, because we just needed to stay in contact. Sometimes it's a wide frame, and he's a little lad sort of moving around, and you need the viewer to be able to sort of follow and feel it, really, so there actually are only probably a dozen breaths that really come through, but they really keep you in contact, I think, with our character there, our hero.
So John, I did a bunch of Q&As with Paul Massey for Bohemian Rhapsody, for which you all, won an Academy Award. So I was just curious, like, what were the unique challenges that you faced with Blitz compared to a film like, Bohemian or other movies that you worked on?
As films go, it was really enjoyable and a lot of fun. I didn't feel, up against it often, because it just felt like a very collaborative shoot, and just Steve's approach. And the thing is, Steve does 1-2 takes, 3 if you're lucky, and that focuses everybody's mind, and that's great. That's a great challenge, and that's probably one of the hardest things, is you've got to get it right. First take, second take, and he's not keen on rehearsal. Well, he does do some rehearsals, but he likes to just crack on, do a few takes, and move on. He knows when he's got it.
Wow. Yes. I'd love to hear that he only does like a few takes. That's really cool. Paul, when it came to the sound and the sound mixing, how much of that was specific, you got it and you're good, and how much of it really came out through trial and error?
We were building and getting ideas of how things were. I think there were 2 musical scenes which were quite wide open, really, until quite late on, and that was the jazz dance club and the Café de Paris. And the jazz dance club, Steve there was something not sitting for him, and he was always saying things. I want to smell it. I need to feel this, and he never quite felt it until we got in the big space. And then I think he gave us a morning where we just worked through it with Pete and our music editor, and we started to feature certain, the punch the drums and things like that. And we felt the room start to move, and it was like, I think this is starting to happen, All
right, Peter, take us out. What makes Steve McQueen a unique, a great filmmaker compared to others you've worked with?
I've been lucky enough to work with some visionary directors, but Steve's got such a unique point of view, and he's such a unique artist. I mean, he's one of the bravest filmmakers I can think of, not only that I've worked with, but anywhere in the world, and he finds inspiration everywhere, and it's all about humanity. He's one of the most human filmmakers there is, I think.
Well, gentlemen, big congrats on the film. I want to thank you for joining us for In Conversation, this conversation behind the scenes with the production team behind Blitz. Blitz is in theaters now. It drops on Apple TV Plus on November 22nd. Once again, my name is Scott Mantz. This is for the Critics' Choice Association. Thank you for joining us in Conversation, and we will see you next time.